This is the 808 plugin we've all been waiting for. Let me introduce to you Ableton 12's new Roar. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Fearless, and today we're taking a dive into Ableton's new audio effect called Roar. Roar is a dynamic saturation audio effect, and that's coming right from Ableton 12's release notes. And to be perfectly clear, this plugin isn't just for your 808s and basses, but today we're gonna deep dive into that so that you can get the craziest sounding 808s and basses using this plugin. In Ableton 12, under our audio effects, you'll find Roar right here. And Ableton's included quite a few different presets for us to go ahead and try and play with. But today I'm going to be showing you how to actually use this plugin so that you can make your own presets and dial it in perfectly every time. Let's start off from scratch. We got a blank MIDI track here. I'm going to go ahead and load up a Roar, and let's just find an 808. I'm going to go ahead and go to our Lost Treasure drum kit. There's a lot of really great 808s in there. Let's take the white gold. And I already went ahead and made a pattern. So let's go ahead and copy this down onto our new MIDI track so we can start going from there. But let's just hear what it sounds like out of the box. In fact, let me turn a Roar off. Let's go ahead and turn on our Roar and start playing with this. So right out of the box, it sounds different. One thing right off the bat that I love about Roar is they took some of the elements from Simpler and Sampler, some of the things I used all the times. For instance, these circuit types down here. These different modes right here give you a drive knob, and you'll see that we have a drive knob right off the bat here, and we have different shapers and different modes that we can use to build off of. So right off the bat, we have a drive and tone knob, so we can go ahead and boost the incoming signal here, and then we can play with the tone of it as well. So two sides of the different spectrum in tone there, and we can also target a hertz value. And this is going to define the frequency for the low shelving filter used with tone. We also have two different compensation modes for the color. When active, positive values are attenuated before the shaper and then boosted again so that the distortion will mostly affect high frequencies only. Negative values will cause low frequencies to be distorted early. So if we go ahead and crank up this drive right here, and we'll pull down the tone pretty low, and you'll be able to hear what it's doing a little better. Not that it's going to sound great. Next, we have our routing, and by default, it's going to be on this single mode right here, which is going to give us one stage that we can go ahead and use to affect the signal. But clicking down on this arrow gives us a couple different options. So we have serial, which is going to give us a second stage. And if you look at this picture right here, it gives us an indicator of what it's doing. So our serial is going to have our first stage feed into our second stage's sound. But if we go to parallel, they're going to play in parallel. And we have a blending value here for each one of our stages. So if we want more or less of one of them, we can do that there. And you can see they're both going to update as we go up and down. We also have multi-band, which is going to separate it into lows, mids, and highs. And we can define our crossover ranges down here. The next one is mid-side, and it's going to allow you to process the mid and side separately. And lastly, we have feedback, which is going to separate our feedback from our direct signal. So that's going to jump into our feedback mode right here, which we're going to take a look at in just a minute, but you can process those signals individually. So we have so many different ways that we can go ahead and process this signal. It's actually getting crazy, but it's about to get even crazier. So let's start off with single mode for simplicity's sake. So now we're getting into our staging, and our staging is going to be affected depending on the shaper that we pick. We have all kinds of different shapes. So we have a soft sine clip, and you'll see right here that this will update in real time for us. We have a digital clip, a bit crusher. Let's turn up the amount so you can see these a little bit better as well. Diode clipper, tube preamp, halfway rectifier, full wave rectifier, polynomial, fractal, trifold, noise injection, and shards. Let's jump up to the soft sine first. And we have our shaper level, which is used to compensate the loudness of the signal at this stage. So let's skip over that because our 808's nice and loud already. We can go ahead and turn up our amount, and you'll see that the curve is defined as we turn it up more and more. But let's hear what that sounds like. So it's giving us a lot more distortion as we push that up. We also have a bias, which lets us offset the DC, and it gives us some pretty cool sounds. Check this out. Let's go backwards first. And then we also have our frequency cutoff right here, and you can affect the pre or post by turning that on there. And as you can see, it's going to update on our filter down here. And we have different filter types, and they went crazy with these. So I love that they added a morph. So we have a resonance value here, and we can go ahead and morph the signal. Look at this, is actually ridiculous. We have a comb filter as well, a resampling filter. We have a peak filter as well, where you can define a peak in the resonance based off the frequency right here. And we have a notch, kind of same thing, but in reverse. Of course, we have our high pass, our band pass, and our low pass. And if you thought that was a lot, dude, we're just getting started. Next is modulation, and you can choose to open that from here. You don't have to use this. This is off by default. So we have our mod sources here and our matrix. But what I really love is to go ahead and turn this on to give us our expanded view. So we have 4 different modulation sources, 2 LFOs, an envelope, and a noise. If we push this back down, this is what it's going to look like down here. We go into our mod sources, and you can click through the different ones right here. With our LFOs, we can pick the different shape it is. We can pick our mode if we want to be synced, free, triplet, dotted, blah, blah, blah. We have our rate as well. We have a morph value, which is actually going to morph the shape here. And we can even smooth out the shape as well. You can see these harsh edges are starting to smooth out. LFO1 and LFO2 are it's just going to give you 2 of the same sources. So you can go ahead and affect those similarly. Envelope is actually going to follow the envelope of the sample. So check this out. It's going to follow the source. They've given us an attack, release, threshold, gain, frequency, and width to go ahead and dial this envelope in perfectly here. So if we turn the release up, you're going to see it's long now. But if we go ahead and turn it back down, you're going to see it's going to start to fizzle down a lot slower. And you can even solo the input of the envelope right here, which is dope. But we also have noise, which is badass. And we haven't turned any of these modulation sources on yet. I'm just showing you what they are. So if you're like, dude, nothing's changed. Yeah. And we have a couple different noise shapes. So we have a simplex, wander, SNH, and lastly is the brown noise. But you're going to see on brown noise, all of our modes get turned off. So it's kind of just random there. But with these ones, you at least get a rate control and you get a smoothing on the S and H. We have synced, free, triplet, dotted, and 16th. And you have your rate as well. But if we actually want to turn one of these on, we want to go into our matrix here, and then we can apply an amount. So whatever value you want to modulate is what you're going to want to click on. And as you can see, it's going to give us a selection around that. So if we want to do our frequency, we could do it there, bias, amount, or we could do our level. Let's go for the amount. And when we do that, it's going to say shaper 1 amount right here. And then we can give a value to each of the different modulation sources. So let's play with that noise one first. We can go into the positive by going up or into the negative, and then it's going to follow that shape. So let's go up. Let's just start playing with this. Let's turn it all the way up. And let's go back to our noise source here. Let's go to brown. Definitely sounds like shit. So noise is obviously going to give us a lot of randomization when it comes to modulating that amount. Let's go to something more realistic. Let's go to envelope. So if we go back to our matrix, we can double click on this to set it to 0. And let's do this with the envelope instead. And let's see what's going on. So if we put this all the way up to 100, it's initially going to start at 100 and then work its way down because it's based off that modulation source. Like let's say we want to add LFO1 to the shaper bias here. If we go ahead and select something else, it's going to copy down a new layer because we have a value there. Adding it to the bias here, you can see we set it at 77, and watch as this hits, you're going to see the bias come off there as the envelope progresses. So you're going to see it stretches out to the full value of that 77 first, and then it comes back down as the envelope progresses. Next is our feedback mode, and you might not necessarily use this on your 808s or basses, but maybe you can get some crazy glitching effects using it. You never know. So we have our different feedback modes here. We have time, synced, triplet, dotted, and note. Note is actually going to allow us to specify a note that we want the feedback to occur on, which is pretty dang cool if you ask me. Let's see, we're starting on an F and going to an E, so maybe if we target that F, we can invert our feedback signal right here by clicking this on or off. Totally different sound there. And we have our feedback gate here. And when we turn this on, it's going to silence the feedback when the note is done playing. But if we turn this all the way back down to 0%, it's not affecting our signal. So we don't got to worry about it. We also have some main bus compression should we choose to apply that. And we have a sidechain high pass filter, and this is useful to reduce the amount of gain reduction for the low frequency signal. And of course, we gotta have our output knob and our dry or wet at the end. We can set the center frequency of the bandpass filter in the feedback path by changing this right here, along with our feedback filter width, which is gonna determine the width of that bandpass filter. So we just went through a lot of functionality, but let me show you some of my favorite ways to use this thing on my 808s. So first off, these shapers go crazy. I like to start here. So the soft sine is gonna give you more of a soft kind of a clipping effect, but the bit crusher can be crazy for those bit crushing effects on your 808s. The tube preamp will just allow your 808 to punch. It can help you give like a little kick presence to the beginning of your 808. That sounds pretty dope, and that's just one of the shapers. I mean, we haven't even played with the drive or the tone. Since we have a lot of that distortion happening, if we turn this tone upwards, we're gonna get more of that. But if we turn it down, we can get a little more of the bass and kind of pull it back a little bit. Ooh, it sounds good like that. And don't forget, you don't have to use this at 100% dry wet either. Let's turn this down a little bit. That sounds disgusting. I've also thrown together a bunch of free roar presets that you guys can download on our website for free. And these are all of my favorite presets that I've made since I've started messing with this thing. And I figured you guys might like it as well. So you can get that. The link's gonna be in the description below. And guys, we're running a 50% off all drum kits on our website. So if you find a drum kit on there that you like, just use the code Ableton12 in all caps and get yourself some crazy sounds. Besides that, man, have you seen everything that's in Ableton's piano roll? These two videos must be watched by every Ableton 12 user, I swear. I'm not just saying that.